Welcome to Thoughts on Ministry podcast with Ray Eppard, a podcast focused on helping you be more effective as you serve God. Now, here's your host, Ray Eppard.
Hello, glad you could join us again today. This is my Thoughts on Ministry. I'm Ray Eppard, and currently we're talking about knowing and functioning where you are. And the last two times we've kind of talked about the negatives of being in one spot but trying to function at a higher spot on the leadership scale. Today I kind of want to flip that and go the other way, where you can be higher on the leadership scale and actually be trying to function lower. You may not realize that you're further up. You have to be able to assess these things and read these things. And where the trying to function higher than actually where you are creates all kinds of problems. On the flip side, not functioning to the level that you're at ends up diminishing your effect. It ends up diminishing what God can actually do in the situation. The full benefits and everything won't come to pass. Everything that God wants to happen won't be happening if you're functioning at a lower level than where you actually are. Let's give a fictitious scenario that, let's say you're a minister, you're a pastor, that you've been ministering to a group of people for a period of time. You have developed relationships, and God has blessed. Not everything has went right. Some things fail, but overall, most things have went good. The greater majority of things have went good. And people's lives have been changed. People have been developed into their own service for God at that point. But yet, being in that position, there are some that's what has happened. That's really where they are. They're somewhere between the productional and the developmental, but they're still trying to function like they're just the new pastor that came in, that they have this position that no one trusts, no one, there's not really been a full relationship built up. It's like everything is concerned. There's a lot of, if you would, insecurities there on their part about where things are. And if that's the case, if you're functioning down here between positional and relational, but yet you're really somewhere between productional and developmental, then there's going to be things that need to be said that will move the ministry along, that will help people develop and will help bless people's lives. You won't say that and you won't do it. You won't initiate certain things because of that insecurity. You're functioning down here at a lower level, relational or positional, and it ends up what your heart is desiring to see happen that God has actually put in your heart. You will have difficulty ever getting there because you're not recognizing where you are. You're not recognizing where you are. You've actually moved beyond this positional and relational dynamic. You're actually at another spot. And again, this is something you have to begin to learn, and you can read people's body language. How do people respond? How do people react? What are the things that they say? And at that point, you can kind of tell where you are. It's not a judgment of other people. It's assessing a position of where you are. That's what you've got to look at. Where am I in this situation? And if you devalue where you are, then there's things that God won't be able to do that he wants to do, that he's put on your heart to do, that just won't be able to happen because you're functioning down here. And some of the reasons that can happen, like I said, one is probably the biggest reason is insecurity. Another reason for that being the case is we get used to functioning a certain way. And if you're used to functioning positionally or relationally and moving on into these others, even though you've done them, actually functioning there actually requires some change. It actually requires adjustment. You end up having to do things a little differently than you've done them because you're in a different spot. And sometimes it's easier just to keep doing things the way we've always done them. I've always done it that way, so I'll just keep doing it. It's worked so far. Well, it worked at that spot, but God has opened a bigger door for you, and you've been faithful. And if you're faithful over little, He'll make you ruler over much. But the thing of it is you've got to step into that. You've got to step into what God wants to give you. Well, this is my thoughts on ministry. I hope you join us again next time. God bless you.
You've been listening to Thoughts on Ministry with Ray Eppard. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.